Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Brokerpreneur podcast. I am Dr. Ben Spears, the ambassador of Flow. I'm here with the big guy as always, Matt Vi. How's it going, Matt?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. How are you, Dr. Ben Spears? I guess you just cleared that up, didn't you? You just said you were doing great. So I think we know where you are. I think I was just on autopilot there for a second.
Dude, it's okay. It's okay. Right? I just, usually I know you ask me how I'm doing every single day. Usually it's just like my thing on the podcast.
I got you.
I say, how you doing? And I just sit back.
Right.
Right?
And then let me put a bow on this.
That's exactly right. I put a little bow on it there at the end. So Matt, we've been talking a lot this week about trust,
Right.
Building connections and networking and,
The importance of it.
The importance of authentic
How to display
relationships, right? That's how you get that trust, right? So, so we're going to be talking about that on the podcast today.
Of course.
Before we do that, guys, wherever you're listening to this, make sure you hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button. Matt's going to be interviewed for Entrepreneur magazine on the 21st. Go hit that link in the description and register for that. Going to be talking about, inflation, recession, how to make sure that, you can turn all this stuff into an opportunity instead of an obstacle.
Yep.
We just finished the Brokerpreneur Not So Secret Society, which we do every single Friday at 12 o'clock.
Yep.
You guys, click the link for that. I think it just says BNSSS or something down there. Click that link and register for next week's, because we would just absolutely love you. We had some amazing brokers from across the country come onto the Not So Secret Society, and we were talking about trust. We were talking about recruiting. We talked about social media. We talked about retention. I don't know what we didn't talk about.
Right.
But we talked about a lot of stuff.
The weather.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the weather one single time. That's why we save it for the podcast.
That's right.
Matt.
How's the weather?
When it comes to trust, it's two things, man. It's the weather and it's being transparent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, something like that.
And can you just, can you be like, I'm not going to be transparent at the beginning. And I'm just going to, I'll be transparent later. Let me get them in the doors.
Yeah.
Right? That kind of thing. Is that how, does that work, or is that,
Yeah,
is
it
that
works.
wrong?
Yeah, it works.
Just not well?
No, it works. I mean, you can absolutely lie to people and get them to sign, right? I mean, people do it all the time on all kinds of different stuff, right? So absolutely, you can do that. Then you got to clean that shit up.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you got to fix it. You got to undo what you did.
Yeah, easy, hard, easy, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Pick your hard.
Yeah, so let's talk about being transparent from the start, because that's what our brokers really want to do, and that's what is going to help them win the most.
Yeah. So here's the thing I think I would probably keep in mind about this. Being transparent from the beginning does not mean telling them everything.
Yeah.
That's not what being transparent means. Okay. Yeah. What being transparent means is make sure that they understand the intention behind what it is that you're trying to accomplish, right? So make sure that they know that. Now that doesn't mean let me say this and then I'm going to unsay it. Okay.
Okay. I'm all ears for this, guys.
So you don't want to call somebody up and say, "Hey, I'm recruiting you."
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. Now, with that being said, when I make an outbound, if I'm talking to somebody,
I've heard you say this.
I've absolutely started exactly like that. I'll call up and I'll say, "Ben, hey, this is Matt. How are you?" You're like, "Oh, good. And I said, "Well, listen, I know you're super busy, so I'm going to be really straight to the point about this. This is a recruiting call. That's part of what I want to accomplish is seeing if maybe we could spend some time talking about working together. But for me, more importantly, I really like being connected with great agents in the market. So I'd love to hear your opinion on how the market's going and everything. If you're not too busy, I'd love to talk to you. Otherwise, I can give you a call later."
Yeah. You know what I love about that? Every time I've ever heard you say it.
What's that?
I love that that agent on the other side, and even just me, like sitting here, we'll say imagining, pretending that you would ever give me a call like that. It's like, okay, I know where I stand.
Yep.
Right? Like, all right, I know where we are. It's it's a level playing field
Yep.
at this point, except for the fact that you've practiced your script. You know
Oh,
what
yeah.
you know what you're getting ready to say, and so maybe it's not exactly level playing field, but for them,
Not being.
they actually know. Okay, well that's what this is about.
Mm-hmm.
There's not that dread of like, when's it coming? We've all watched a webinar or something,
Oh man,
and it's like, all right, when's it coming?
I can't stand that. I mean, so I go to YouTube a lot, right? So I don't watch a whole bunch of TV shows. I watch YouTube, right? And so I go, I look at real estate recruiting all the time.
Yeah.
And there's so much bullshit on there. It's not even fun. It's so terrible with so much of it. Now there's some really good stuff too, right? Don't get me wrong, right? There's some really good stuff out there. But some of that stuff, I'm just like, man, is that really how is that how you're going to start your relationship with them?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not interested at all in having a relationship with them, if it's truly just about them being on board and whatever it is, come on board, I want to make a piece of the money, go do whatever you're going to do, I'll see you around. If that's exactly how it is, man, I absolutely get that. Podcast isn't for you. We've said that before. But if that's absolutely how you do it, man, there's a ton of that kind of information about how to trick people into that, right?
Oh,
And so, but that's the transparency that we're talking about from the beginning. Have that conversation. So let me go back to what I said just a second ago. You don't want to start that conversation with them that way. Okay.
Yeah.
The reason why I start the conversation with them that way is because I'm really practiced in how to move that conversation forward.
Yes.
Okay. And so that's probably not a great place for most people to start. Okay.
Yep.
There's a ton of great people out there that absolutely that's where they could start. Hey, this is a recruiting phone call, but I just wanted to, and then fill in the blank. But that for most people, that's probably not where they want to start. Right.
Yeah.
But you do at some point want to talk to them, not saying that this is a recruiting call, but you do want to say, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about us potentially working together. Let me just urge you to pause the podcast. And I'm going to say this again. I want you to pause the podcast and send this to yourself in a text or something like that.
Okay.
I would like to talk to you about the potential of us possibly working together. I would like to us have a conversation about potentially working together in the future. Something along that line needs to come early in the conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and the reason why is you don't want to get put in the friend zone, right?
Yeah.
They need to have an understanding of where this conversation would potentially lead. Okay. Yeah. They need to kind of have a grip on it. They're going to appreciate that you're coming clean with that, but you don't have to, like I said to begin with, you don't have to say everything up front.
No. Yep.
The reason why you don't have to, and this is not you not being honest with them. I need to get that point. I need to get that point across. Whatever it is that you say is going to happen in them transitioning and becoming part of your brokerage, it isn't all going to work that way.
Oh, for sure.
That's just not what's going to happen, right? I mean, that's just the reality of it. And how come?
It's too volatile.
It is too volatile. It's real estate. It's extremely volatile. But more importantly, they're an independent contractor.
Yep.
So you've got volatility of the real estate market, independent contractor, and ever-evolving real estate models. How is it that you could tell them everything today and promise them exactly how it's going to be, and then it's going to be that way for the next 5-10 years? And it's just not.
Yeah. You're not.
Things change.
You're not He-Man. You don't have all the power.
Right. In the universe. So you're going to tell them things that fall into the categories that allow them to make an informed decision, right? And so we've talked about recruiting pillars before. We don't need to we're not going to spend time on it right now, but absolutely you need to make sure that you're having conversations with them so that they can make an informed business decision.
Yes.
Now, you don't leave the finances out of the conversation. You don't leave the hidden fees out of the conversation. You don't, right? That's not what I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah.
What I am saying is that how many postcards they get. You don't need to give them a freaking quiz on how many free postcards they're going to get. Okay. Yeah. They don't need to be able to answer that question perfectly.
Right.
They need to appreciate it. If marketing is a primary focus for them, my gosh, yes, 100%. You need to have that postcard.
Deep dive.
Right. But if it's not, you have to be there authentically for them, and you have to give them the information that it is that they're going to need. That's where that transparency comes in. What is it that you need and what is it that my company offers, and I need to be very clear in what that offering is.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like these podcasts, right? We can make every single one of these podcasts 3, 4, or 5 hours long if we wanted to, right? But it's like you guys as listeners, I mean, unless you're like recruiting sickos like Matt,
Right?
right? You'd be like, no, I can't, right? So we try and say, okay, well, what are the important nuggets out of this that we want everyone to take away, so we can keep this around 20, 25 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes, right? We try and just make everything as easily consumable as possible. You're doing the same thing in your interview when you're going over leads, training, cost, revenue, expenses, and culture. You pick that one. You gave a great example, with marketing and whatever. Yep. Yeah, deep dive into that. That's the one that they need to talk to. But just know your little points, and we've had podcasts about that. Right. And that's part of being transparent.
Absolutely.
Right. That's part of being transparent. Transparency can be scripted to some
Absolutely.
to some
Absolutely.
extent, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's a little bit different. We know that. Maybe we have to say, okay, in this situation, I'll change this,
right.
to get that person on board. But that also leads us into that's the transparency of like, hey, here's what I have to offer.
Right.
You also need to be transparent when it comes to the actual decision-making process
100%.
of, I know you don't ever hire anybody like the first time you meet them, right? Nor should anyone, I guess.
Right.
But that decision-making process of like how they're actually, going to be assessed and be brought on, because you can't, like, maybe if you just like the smallest town ever, so I don't know, but you can't take everybody.
Right.
It would just be wrong.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So as you go through your conversation with them, and so remember, fundamentally, why are we talking about being transparency and explaining the decision making process? Again, this goes back to trust.
Yep.
Right. If you tell them everything, they're going to be overloaded and they're not going to remember all of it.
Yeah.
And then that's going to erode that trust, because they're going to think they heard it a certain way, because everything we hear is through our filter.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have to be careful in some of those conversations. Right. So that's part of what's going to help build trust, is by being transparent with it, but also letting them know what's going to happen as you go through making the decision process. Right.
Yeah.
And so, everybody should have a transition plan. Okay. When someone says yes, what happens? Yeah. When they say, yes, I agree, what happens right there from that point? Okay. Yeah. So from that until them being completely acclimated to their system, there should be some type of roadmap for it. Now, it doesn't need to be, every possible scenario. That's not what we're saying, but there's a basic roadmap. How do they get all the things? How do they get the systems? How do they get into training? How do they get their first check? All of that, right? How does all that happen? When you begin to have that conversation with them, they're going to trust that you're not hiding anything when you've got that all laid out. That's a big part of why you have that happen. Okay. Yeah. Because if I say, well, Ben, I'd really love for you to come on board, and you're like, you know what, Matt, I think it would be a great idea. I'd love to, I'd love to come on board. And then you say something like, well, let me tell you exactly how exactly it would happen from here. Okay. So the first thing is, I'm going to send you some paperwork. The paperwork is going to have your independent contractor agreement. It's going to have this, 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 and this. And when you click on this and you sign this, I'm going to get this back. And then so-and-so is going to set up your username and passwords. And then this is going to happen with whatever. And then we're going to get your desk set up, and I'm going to order everything for you that we've got. And you go through that list of all the things that are going to happen.
Yep.
As I start to check those things off the list with you, all that's going to do is continue to build that trust. We know that. Everybody knows that. However, when I start to go through all of that stuff for you, and I say, this is where we're going, this is where this is heading, it's going to solidify that you made the right decision. But it's also going to make sure that that feeling of trust that you have is now being verified. Yeah. Right? Because I said, hey, look, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to support you. And then you say yes. And then immediately I know, hey, this is where this is what's going to happen, and this is what's going to happen next. And
you're showing it. You're proving it.
Absolutely. So part of that transition conversation, okay, not to get off track, part of that transition conversation, the more experienced the person is, the more of the transition you need to explain before they say yes.
Yep.
Okay, so let me say that again. The more experienced the person is, the more you have to explain the transition process, okay, before they say yes. So the example that I just used, we were sitting here and you said yes, and I said, okay, let me tell you about it, okay? The more experienced the agent is, you're not going to wait until that point. Part of you building trust is going to say, here's how we're going to handle this, and this is the reason why. A lot, I'm going to say most, of experienced agents before they transition to your brokerage have been to another brokerage. Transition processes do not always happen the same.
Oh,
right?
For sure.
And so what that means is they probably had good transition things that happened. They probably had bad transition things that happened. If you can talk to them early on and say, some of the pitfalls that you've had before, we're going to make sure that they didn't happen. They're not going to happen this time. If you're able to help them know that that's going to happen, it's going to build that trust, and it's going to make that decision process just easier.
Hey guys, this episode of the Brokerpreneur podcast is brought to you by the Speculo Group. The Speculo Group is the turnkey solution for agent and brokerage lead generation. With a focus on generating the highest quality leads from platforms like Google, YouTube, Facebook, and more, the Speculo Group is your one-stop shop to dominating your local market and beyond. Visit their website for more information at thespeculogroup.com.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, and I went through a couple different, from a new agent, to a successful agent, and different brokerage orientations. Right, the first one that I went through, I was a new agent, and it was like, there's the copier, here's a guy we passed in the hallway, and would you mind helping this guy if you ever had questions? Yeah, sure. Okay, that's the guy that's gonna, kind of help. It was like, this is where you get coffee, and that was it, right?
And that was a big name brokerage, right?
That was a big brokerage,
right?
And I was like, okay, and so I went to another one, after that, and it was a smaller brokerage, maybe a little more. I say small, 60 plus agents, and man, it was awesome, right? It was just like, hey, here's Joan, and Joan's gonna help you with everything, and she's just fantastic, and I love her to this day. And but all my questions were answered. The broker was there to take care, and I basically just kind of outgrew where I was there, went to the next one as a successful agent, and And I had a different experience, but I had the same experience in the third one of, man, it was like, there was like a checklist, right? You know how I am. It was like, man, we're gonna show you this, and this is where you do this, and this is how you do this, and it was like all laid out for me, and so, but every step of the way, it just kept getting a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. Of course, I interviewed with other brokers through that whole process. And you could just tell in that interview, like, it's going to be a mess.
Yep.
I don't even want to start here because I don't even know
where the hell it's going.
I don't know where this is going to go, and so that was one of the things as an experienced agent that I was looking for, was in the interview, does this person or this guy or gal have his or her shit together? And does it look like the agents in their office also,
right,
have it put together? Because that's kind of a reflection as well.
Absolutely.
We did that podcast about dress up your office, dress yourself up, dress blah 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 blah, and same thing. If I walk in, and you're in a 3-piece suit, and your office is absolutely perfect in every single way, and nothing's out of place. And then I go and I start walking around and I see all the agents there, and they got, it looks like they never had a bath. I've never seen that. Let's say that's the reflection. It's like, okay, am I being tricked? Like, what's going on? Does this guy only wear a suit and clean his office the day that I come in, for his interviews or something? So, that just has to do with that, with all that transparency and same thing like you were talking about with new experienced agents and, the explaining process, the decision-making process. But, I just wanted to reiterate, from a story standpoint, just how important that is, guys, because sometimes we can forget, right? We're brokers, and when you're on one side of the screen, it's hard to look at the other, from the eyes of someone else. Everybody thinks their baby's the most beautiful baby on the face of the earth.
Right.
Not all babies are the most beautiful baby on the
There can
face
only
of
be
the
one, as a matter of fact.
That's exactly right.
Right? And the odds of it being yours.
Yeah, it ain't going to be a baby long, so.
Right. Yep. So what that does is it helps them trust that you're going to take care of them, and you only get one chance at a first impression, right?
Yep.
And that's your chance to make sure that you make the most of it. So being transparent from the start, that doesn't mean that you have to line out everything to the nth degree to tell them all of it, right? And then making sure that you explain the decision process for them, and then explain the transition, and all of those things. When they know you have those bases covered, they're just going to be more likely to trust you, and your transition is just going to go so much smoother. And they're going to tell other people about how it went.
Yep, completely agree. Well, Matt, if you don't have anything else, I'm going to put a little bow on it.
Yep, there we go. That's what we were talking about at the begining.
Yeah,
here comes the bow.
Let's tie it on. I talked a little bit on this one, guys, so you're welcome, or I'm sorry. Guys, when you're listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, any of those platforms, make sure you hit that follow button. If you're watching this on the YouTubes, what's up? Hit that red subscribe button, that bell right beside of it, get notified every time we drop a new episode. Go over and take a sneak peek at our Brokerpreneur Fast Track at brokerpreneurpodcast.com. It's right there on the homepage. Just click that button and take a look. It's one of the coolest things that you will ever see to help you grow your brokerage, no matter what phase or stage of the business you're in. And it is so cost effective, guys. It is not even funny. So please go check that out.
And we're not saying that from the standpoint of we got the prettiest baby.
Oh yeah, no.
We just know this is the prettiest baby.
Yeah, this. There have been polls. Right?
That's right.
Like, this is the prettiest baby ever. So, guys, go check that out. Matt, we do everything, on this podcast. Everything inside the Fast Track, everything that you're going to do for Entrepreneur Magazine on the 21st.
Right.
For one reason alone. Tell them how that is, man.
Man, we just want to be part of their win.